Former US President Donald Trump will be formally arrested in a planned surrender to authorities next Tuesday in Manhattan. There, he'll be fingerprinted and have a mugshot taken. It follows his indictment over alleged payments of hush money to an adult film actress before the 2016 presidential election, which Trump won. The exact charges against him are not known yet. It's the first ever criminal case against a former US president. Trump's legal team says he's ready to fight all charges.
In a historic first, a former U.S. president is facing criminal charges. Manhattan's grand jury has indicted Donald Trump after prosecutors spent weeks investigating a payment Trump made during his 2016 campaign. They allege Trump paid adult movie actor Stormy Daniels $130,000 to keep her quiet about a past sexual encounter and claimed it as a campaign expense.
So, for years,
Trump and his lawyers claim he is innocent and that the case is politically motivated.
He has been obviously hearing the rumors, as all of Americans have, that this witch hunt, as he calls it, would be coming to fruition. That is a very sad state of affairs and very politically motivated.
Trump's pending arrest, expected on Tuesday, is bound to shake up the 2024 presidential race, where Trump is once again running for office. But Trump could also benefit from the sympathetic response of his supporters.
Actually, I think it's helping him. I think he's going to get more votes now because people maybe will wake up and vote for him. I hope.
The exact charges Trump faces are still unclear. New York police have set up barricades around the courthouse where Trump is expected to appear on Tuesday.
Basically, he's formally introduced into the criminal justice system. He gets a chance to hear the formal charges against him at the arraignment, which is a hearing before a judge, and it'll be fingerprinted, photographed, bail will be set, the usual process.
Trump's lawyers said they had struck a deal with Manhattan's district attorney not to have their client in handcuffs when he surrenders to face criminal charges. A New York judge has authorized making the charges against Trump public. But when exactly that will happen is still unclear.
I'm joined now from Washington, D.C. by Catherine Ross, who is a professor of law at George Washington University. She's also previously written a book on whether presidents have a right to lie. Professor, thank you so much for your time. Trump's Republican allies are calling his indictment a weaponization of the legal system to advance a political agenda. Ron DeSantis from Florida said this. Do you see any evidence that this could be true?
First, Jared, thank you very much for inviting me on your show. This is absolutely untrue. And the extent of the really dishonesty and speciousness of what the Republican politicians are doing is that we have not yet seen the Bill of Particulars for the indictment, in which the government will lay out the specific charges, and we understand there are at least 30 felony charges, as well as the evidence that backs them up. I expect this to be what we call a talking indictment, where the indictment not just lays out the charges and tying them to statutes and so forth, but tells the story of what the evidence uncovered. So for politicians from Trump's party to come out and say this is a witch hunt. They have compared this actually to Nazi Germany, which shows a vast misunderstanding or lack of knowledge of the actual history of what that means, but your viewers will understand.
Yes.
So normally, before criticizing legal actors, one would at least want to see what we're talking about. And the House Republicans in particular, but also some of our senators and some other public Republican leaders have behaved very irresponsibly. There is no evidence and no even hint of suggestion that the prosecutor in New York City has done anything but proceed with extreme caution. We know that he initially did not want to proceed with asking the grand jury to vote to indict. They took a lot more evidence. They spent more than another year until he could really pin everything down. And I am quite confident that that the district attorney was not eager to indict. Nobody wants to be the first person to bring this kind of a case with all the scrutiny that is going on that. And he did it when he had, as we say in English, crossed all his T's and dotted all his I's and got corroborating evidence for every point.
Professor, crossing the T's, dotting the I's, this is a very unprecedented situation. In your estimation, how important or significant is this particular case involving Donald Trump in terms of democracy and the rule of law?
This is a momentous time for us. The failure to indict with at least the evidence that we all know about outside the jury room would have smacked of political considerations. And in the United States, the rule of law is our guidepost. The founders who wrote our Constitution were adamant that we are a government of laws and not of men, that we don't have aristocracy or monarchs or privileged people. We are all citizens. And Trump was indicted by a grand jury of his peers, that is, other regular citizens. And this is a very reassuring moment that our institutions are, at least up to this point, this institution is functioning as it should, doing the regular course of justice.
Professor, we have a case now where there is a former president who is being charged in a criminal case, potentially facing jail time as he runs for president again. What type of stress test is this going to be for the US judicial system?
It will be an enormous stress test, and I think that's a very good term. And we need to make sure that our democracy is going to withstand a stress test in the way that the best-run, best-funded bank can survive a stress test and scrutiny. And we are all concerned about it. So while I said it's a momentous moment, it is a somber moment. It is not a moment to jump up and down and say, hooray, he was indicted. I certainly don't feel that way. We need to let the trial run its course. We need to let things proceed in the normal order. Americans are not very patient. The news media is not very patient. And we already have a lot of reason to be fearful that some of Trump's most ardent supporters outside the realm of politics, the everyday citizens who have engaged in violence on his behalf before, who show up at places like Waco, Texas, which is a trumpet call. It's not a whistle. It's a loud clarion call. Come out and do something extreme. We're very concerned about that. We are concerned about safety for the jurors and the prosecutors, given some of what has already been on social media, and the fact that even in a current civil trial where Trump is a defendant, also in New York but in federal court, the judge recently said that he would not release the names of the jurors, and they have extra police protection for the civil trial. So we have grave concerns. On the other hand, I think, New York's police force is one of the best in the world. They're all out there in uniform today and till the arraignment on Tuesday. But we are going to all have to stay on our toes and not take anything for granted.
Staying on our toes and, of course, as you say, calling for patience. That was Professor Catherine Ross from George Washington University. Thank you so much. We really appreciate your time today.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.